The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed in the podcast belong solely to the hosts and not the host's past, present, or future employers. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. We're at full strength this week. It's Brian, Mr. Betcher, and Miss Berlin for Breaking Down Security.
Yay.
Mr.
I'm back.
We must have.
Hi.
Oh, there you go. It's the
Strong
dude,
silent type.
It's audio. You can't. This doesn't work.
He's waving for those of you listening and
Right,
not watching, like the
For
two of
closed
us.
captioning purposes, and wave. Yeah. So I'm glad everybody's back. Miss Berlin's been out what appears to be a couple of weeks when
I'm
in
so
fact
sorry.
it's been almost 6, but you got family, you got things, you got to go do those things.
Yeah, like sickness and work and something else. I can't remember what it was, but
that's
like
okay.
I felt terrible.
It's all good. Family, family's first.
Oh, that's right.
I
I went out and saw Michael. I went and flew
That's
out
right.
to Yuma and saw Michael, which was kind of fun sometimes.
Was it hot there?
I think it got up to 95 maybe the one day.
It's not too bad, I guess. But
No.
considering
but I mean, it's
was
like
probably
you can see Mexico from Yuma. Like it's right
Okay.
there. That's right there.
right.
Like I drove down the street to go look at what is a self-proclaimed center of the world in the middle of nowhere in Yuma. That some French guy just decided to buy like 500 acres of land in the desert and declare it the center of the world. So I went to drive to that and had to drive through like a checkpoint, which they just, waved me through. Yeah.
Yeah, they're more than willing to let you leave. It's coming back in is the problem.
Yes. Right.
Yeah.
Well, it was
Yeah.
a checkpoint on this side.
It was. And
Yeah.
I'm like a white chick driving a Beamer. So
Yeah, so they're just making sure you don't have any people stashed in your
right.
your trunk and stuff like that.
Yes,
Yeah.
because people are trying to smuggle Americans to Mexico.
Yes,
and
I
that's
mean,
really a huge deal. so,
Honestly.
yeah. Yeah. So, well, I'm glad you're back. I'm glad, Mr. Betcher, I'm glad you're here with us as well. Been a busy week. We just last Friday, the 29th, we did an interview, part number 2 with Blue Mara. Of course, Miss Berlin was suspiciously on mute the whole time because she got triple booked because of some stuff. But it was okay.
Scheduling on my part.
No, it's not poor scheduling. We actually interviewed Nate O'Reilly, which you can go back and listen to. It was a paid for podcast, so the check cleared and everything. So we got some money out of that. But I thought it was a really good discussion on not just some of the stuff that Blue Mara does, but talking about logging requirements and maturity. And we talked about ways that you should be logging via like API if it's an application based system. I did not realize that Blue Mara has a classification for their logs, and they tend to tailor it based on how some orgs work. If they're more app heavy versus, network heavy, they would, put more weight on some of these logs, and talked about what happens if you have devices that won't give you logs, like if you're using managed systems, like, maybe you have a firewall that's being managed by somebody else. And it's like, oh, well, we don't want to give you logs. It's like, you can actually watch the actions of that device, or, do a timeline kind of thing where you can see the packet on the outside come through. There's a bit of a fuzzy area, and then you can see the packets on the other side and look at timelining and stuff like that. So I thought it was a really interesting discussion. As with most of our vendor discussions, they aren't like, oorah, go get some of that Blue Mara. We're kind of just talking about things, and then, Blue Mara does stuff. Hope you enjoy that one. So, let me see. We're going to do a little news this week. I think that'll be good.
Yeah.
And I'm going to try for Mr. Frank out there. We're going to try to keep it to around 30 minutes for you there, Frank. Okay. So you can continue listening.
You're welcome.
You won't have, you're welcome. Because we love you, man.
But if we do it at like 40 minutes and he listens at 1.5 speed,
Oh, that's right. Okay. Okay.
Right?
Yeah. Try that. We'll just talk. a
Like I
little
always listen to
slower.
podcasts at 1.5 speed, but then
Oh.
I feel like I've never listened to myself at 1.5, and I feel like I would just sound like a chipmunk. So I'm just not
Right.
gonna do it.
Well, what I'm doing for Frank is making sure that when he speeds it up to 1.5, that this actually
You
sounds like it.
sound normal.
We did- oh God. All right. All right. Anyway,
Too much fun.
all right. So one of the things that and actually to add to what we're going to talk about with NATO, but I know you talk about this because you know it's your life. During the research that I found on doing some of the logging and the maturity in the organizations was back in January we had shit, I forget her name. We had somebody on talking about the new SolarWinds executive directorate orders that came out about trying to make sure that things like SolarWinds didn't happen again. And one of those things that I found during my discussion was the federal government is making it a requirement to log certain things, and they're going through a log maturity model where in 18 months you need to be at what is called level 3 maturity of logs. And one, I was kind of scared because I was like, well, level 1 is what everybody should be doing, but if they're not even doing that, then oh my God, you know, they're not logging at all. But what I found interesting was the ideas of logging here. So if you go to you know, they have specific tiers. So EL0 through EL3. Basic logging is minimum logging of data, time standards, event forwarding. So they've added all these various requirements, and they have a whole appendix, and there's a link in our notes to that. But what they're trying to do is build in more maturity. So, you know, things like visibility, asset management, software, you know, management, all those things are embedded into systems to make sure that this stuff doesn't happen again. And I find that quite interesting. And I can only imagine how long it actually took them to make this. Were you aware of that, Ms. Berlin, that there was a logging maturity model out there that the government has to follow? Uh-oh. I think we lost Ms. Berlin. I think she's in a hotel. So
I'll tell you what,
I think I'm
wasn't.
back.
Oh, okay. Good, Mr. Betcher. What was your thought there?
No, I wasn't aware that this was published until today.
Okay.
So
Same.
yeah.
Yeah.
I was trying to read through it all because I mean, I was just talking the other day about how, I mean, not tied to Blumira because I feel like some of the partnerships that we have would not really like this, but
Right.
completely third party type thing where I just want to name and shame some some companies that are terrible at logging.
Well, you could do that, and then I'll have to go bleep them out. So I
Right.
don't know if it's a good thing or not.
Yeah, I don't have to on here, but
Okay.
there's
Cool.
just,
They know who they
I mean,
are.
I'm sure Brian knows too, just like there are multi-billion-dollar companies that have the worst logging.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
you know,
I'm looking at the thing now, and it says operating systems, Windows infrastructure and operating systems. And it says file and object access. So, and then it says you need 12 months of active storage. So if I access a file on let's say a server, I got to store that for 12 months.
I think you have to store the logs, right?
Yeah, the
Right.
logs.
But I mean, no one does file integrity monitoring or file and object like that is a lot of logging.
Right.
That's a ton of logging. Yeah.
Holy cow.
Objects, you know, that's a process, right?
Yeah, and a DLL
Right.
or anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's like putting Sysmon on your Sysmon and just cranking it up. Right.
Yep.
That's probably I don't know, a gig a day on one system.
Per box, right? Not counting
God.
like an actual like active server or file server or anything like that.
I mean, there's some good ones here. but
Which one are you?
this
Which
is
one are you
very
looking at,
noisy.
Mr. Betcher?
I'm
Page
looking
20.
at page 20.
Oh, okay. Yeah, y'all are way down there. Okay. I was looking at like the, the EL1 version there, some of the things that I raised an eyebrow to it's on page 5 there in appendix A was they talking about source IPs, IPv4 and IPv6, status codes, response times. Then they say where appropriate username and or ID will be included. Where appropriate, command executed shall be included. Where possible, all data will be formatted as key value pairs, allowing for easy extraction. So that's like, JSON type format where it's easy to parse, which is not a bad thing. I do worry a little bit about the usernames and user IDs. There's a lot of, I think there's a lot of data, and we often tell people to make sure you're logging, but not putting things in there like, I've found passwords in log files. I don't see the need for a username in a log file.
What?
That's what it says on page
I
5.
know there should always be usernames in log files. Talk about how hard it is to like give appropriate actions for like fixing things if you don't know who's done what.
Well, it says where appropriate though. That's
Oh,
my
okay.
thing. Okay, I can definitely see that for like user root logged into this system, which makes sense. But the where appropriate is like, maybe you don't need it for, hey, this account logged in or this email logged in or whatever. There might be some places where user IDs and password, user IDs or usernames may not be needed.
I don't know. I've never not needed them. How about that?
Okay, that's great.
I've needed them in more places where they've not been.
Right.
Yeah.
And
I'm always asked, well, who did this? And it's in the logs, right? So yeah.
Right. Okay. And it says where possible, unique identifier will be included or shall be included for event correlation. A unique event ID shall be defined per event type. So that's
Okay.
they've definitely done their due diligence on creating like a basic EL1.
I do like that they ask for UTC. That's pretty great.
Oh yeah. They should definitely be forcing everybody to use UTC for. I think we've had a number of people on talking about forensics and having to do that time conversion or getting things mixed up for events.
It's horrible.
So, yeah. When I was in the Navy and setting time servers and everything, we had to use time servers for the Gov. We couldn't even use like time.com or time.windows.com or whatever.
Right.
We had to use nist.gov or whatever to because it had to be a specific stratum of time server. So
yeah.
They do get down to the nth degree on this, like intermediate logging categories, publication of the standardized log structures. So they have to CISA will make available reference guides for schema, inspection of encrypted data. So federal agencies will store and retain in clear text form the data or metadata from Appendix C collected in their environment. I'm going to have to read more into that because I'm not sure if storing things in clear text is a good idea or not. I have to see what Appendix C is about. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of things here that could go. So logging requirements, technical details. Okay. Yeah. It's count creation. So yeah, they have all of these. I think you can, Mr. Betcher and you can probably go down through these and tell the Windows event codes for these various things. So, my thing is, okay. So one thing that got me on this and the other thing I wanted to talk about alongside this was, I work for an organization that tends to try to create policy internally. And, I mentioned this and I mentioned the thing that we're about to talk about in a few minutes. And they were like, oh yeah, we already have stuff like that in our environment. I was like, okay, great. But it's internal and it's not being published anywhere to be, best practices to be adopted. Or inviting ourselves as part of a larger organization or community to help get things done and standardized across the environments. And now we've got the US government here creating this thing, and I was like, why didn't they, are they following ISO standards? Are they following any kind of international standards where people don't have to go, oh well, okay, we're following ISO standards and now we have to do the government stuff? I did not see anything, and you know, albeit I haven't read through past like page 20, but there might, you know, if there's any other sections where like, oh, we're following this and then we're just adding these things, that would be great. But it seems like they rolled their own log management process here, and I just think that, you know, there's a reason we have ISO standards. There's a reason we have, you know, PCI and all these other ones that require specific logging requirements, that they could have just borrowed from those and said, hey, use ISO, but, you know, instead,
Right.
or use ISO minus or something like this. Or if you're following ISO, then you're good to go.
Well,
Um,
and if you look at like everything that they're asking to get to that level 3 is going to be millions of dollars for companies that use anything based on log ingestion, like volume.
how so?
Like some, because I mean, if you turn on like process, like what was it? What were we just
Process
talking about?
create and terminate.
Yeah.
And file and an object access.
Yeah,
Those
you
are
you turn on that
ginormous.
in any normal organization, they will spend their yearly budget on nothing but log ingestion.
Yeah, you're talking terabytes a day, depending on the
Oh,
size
my.
of the company.
Hmm.
Okay. So they say 12 months of active storage and 18 months of cold data storage. So I was talking with NATO about, you know, hard drive rooms full of hard drives where, you know,
Yeah.
that data has to be stored or whatever. I'm imagining that there's going to be some more budget, if it hasn't already been set aside, for things like what Amazon Glacier or whatever, where they can put this stuff into cold storage and then, you
Yeah.
know, purge it as they need it.
You'll have a single SAN for each event ID.
You're right.
Oof. Oof, that would be rough. Yeah. Well, I do know that like folks like the Navy have already been, you know, trying to build out their, you know, NMCI or whatever they call it now, the next gen network. So they've already been working in this, you know, and, you know, the government's got the Azure side there, you know, with JEDI, the Azure contract. So Microsoft, I'm sure, is more than willing to allow them to pay them for, you know, log storage and analysis. And those are definitely things that can be done. I do like that they've included other operating systems like Linux, BSD, Mac OS, you know, like storing varlog cron, varlog kernel log, boot log. So there's the problem is some of these files are, especially like btemp, wtemp, and utemp, I think are binary. They're not in an easy key pair, you know, format that is, at least the last time that I've ever tried to view wtemp, it was a binary format, so it wasn't easily ingestible without, you know, opening it in a specific manner. But
Yeah.
It'll be interesting that, you know, if they are on track with this, because I believe that, you know, within a year they were supposed to be at like level 2. Otherwise, they were supposed to, you know, have some kind of, you know, nasty Graham meeting where people were sitting around trying to figure out why that didn't happen. So.
This is pretty vague stuff. I'm looking at the Windows stuff and it says registry access. You have to log the registry. Do you know how many times Windows accesses
my
the
gosh.
registry every second?
Right.
I mean, it could be hundreds. Yeah, no one
Yeah.
does that. No one logs registry access.
But if you notice at the top of Appendix C, it says that exceptions to requirements set below are full packet capture data for 72 hours.
Full PCAP for 72 hours.
I
Jesus.
mean, that might be less data than logging all of that.
That's only network data though. That ain't OS level data.
Don't
right.
tell them
Jesus.
that. Don't tell
Oh my
them that.
God.
That's what it says in the appendix.
I'm starting to think that this is pretty juvenile.
Well,
Yes.
I mean,
so-
to be blunt.
Well, yeah, but the problem is, so SolarWinds was something that pervaded their entire, you know, back end infrastructure. And, you know, one, they're trying to stop another SolarWinds from happening again. But, you know, to be fair, SolarWinds would have been something that would have either collected these logs or would have generated enough logs to be for ingestion as well. And I only, you know, I do see where they're just, it sounds like they're trying to, you know, shoot the whole moon at one time instead of, or, you know, eating the whole elephant at one time instead of taking a bite, whatever those business hack, you know, things are. they're trying to do too much at once, I think, in this case, where they're eh, so I mean,
Yeah, they are,
it'll
but this is going to cause a lot of confusion. I mean,
how
nobody
so?
can do this really, unless you're really small and you got a pretty big budget for a sim. You know, this is going to be really tough. I don't know if they thought this through.
Well, it is the government, so not to be too political, but I find that things like this are rarely. This was written a month or two after SolarWinds, so this section specifically, or the whole executive bit was. Nope, I'm sorry, August 27th. So yeah, they've had a little time to look through this, but yeah, I mean, maybe they have not consulted
They could have
people.
chosen, yeah, they could have chosen a mature logging thing and said, hey, just do that,
Right.
certify with them, or
Right.
the Windows logging cheat sheet that's been around for a decade, right? It's pretty mature. Just something that's already published
Right.
and industry standards. They don't have
Right.
to reinvent the wheel here.
Yeah, that's why I said ISO standards or what have you. Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
So, well, that's why we have companies like Miss Berlin's company to help out with that. But what I wonder is how this will drive technology. Will this make companies want to do, invest in less? Because there was also things like Docker and Kubernetes and container logs as well. But so, I mean, will this reduce, I don't know, the number of servers, for instance, or will this reduce the, are we looking at technology changes in this case? Because it's like, well, if I have to buy 500 Windows machines, then that's 500 times the logs that I'm going to be, having to log on or something like that. I mean, I didn't see anything about users, but I mean, this may only just be servers, or it just may be areas of import for, specific infrastructure.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm looking at the Amazon logs, and so you need 12 months of active storage and 18 months of cold storage, and you need CloudTrail, CloudWatch, config logs, access logs, flow logs, WAF logs, Shield, GuardDuty, and Security Hub. Amanda, I don't know that much about this, but what kind of size are we talking about for all of that?
I don't even know. A lot. That's a lot of that's a lot
massive,
of data.
and that's very expensive too. I mean, you
Yeah.
could do it, but that would be very expensive.
I mean,
Yeah.
it would be expensive enough to do even a fifth of this. Like most people don't even come close to any of this, like at all.
Well, when you say that, are you saying that most people who do logging
Most
well
enterprises.
don't-
Yeah, most people that log now don't.
and do it well?
yeah.
Where are they?
Oh yeah. 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 I would say not even half.
Right.
Well, maybe half of this list. Maybe.
Right.
I haven't made it all the way through the appendix yet, but like some of these, I mean, just like we talked, like the process creation and termination and the file and object access, like what are like some of these like don't rarely log. Like you get like maybe one log a month, right? So like audit log cleared, right? You can
Right.
just alert anytime that happens for the most part because it very rarely happens. But when you have like, 100,000 events or logs every second for file and object access, like that stacks up. And like you can't even make use of it. Like if
Right.
you're doing maybe some anomalous like activity stuff or whatever, but that's so much data that most people don't have the money to store it or to transport it, or like the network volume, like even like the size of pipe that they would need to ship it.
Yeah. And does that include image loads? Right. I
Oh
would
my
think
gosh.
so. because it says object access.
Yeah.
Oh, you're talking for every process that you run. You're talking maybe 100 libraries that it needs
Oh my
Mm.
gosh.
each time, right?
Yeah.
That's forensics right there.
Well, you know, the interesting thing is I'm actually looking back through this to see exactly what they're doing. This is just, you must collect these logs. This isn't even, hey, you need to analyze these logs, because the other part is, oh yeah, you need to allow FBI or CISA access to these logs upon request and to the extent consistent with applicable law. So, FBI comes in, is like, okay, you've been breached, give us all your logs. And okay, here's 25 terabytes of data. So where do you want me to put that? You got a thumb drive or
Yeah,
something?
but 25 terabytes, even for a medium-sized organization, isn't going to be 12 months if they do that on every system.
Right.
They're going to be logging out with turning on all of this. They're going to do
Right.
25 terabyte a day
Oy.
times however many days is in 12 months. Well, I mean, that's a year. So
And this is an
365.
overreaction.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
Yeah. Well,
Like you might be able to store this kind of stuff for a day.
yeah. I've worked in the government side, and you can get a waiver for pretty much anything. I mean, if you can show, hey, we have $60,000 for logging. So, here's how we're collecting this stuff, or, we just don't have the budget to get to EL3. They do specify 2 years from, August 27th. So the idea is by 2023, they're supposed to be at EL level 3. So they are giving them 2 years to get up to, like, oh my God, crazy levels of logging. But
yeah, I mean, they also have like database level access to sensitive information within databases, such as keys, passwords, and privacy related data. So every bit of access, like in an EMR, right? You have huge hospital system, every bit of access that gets logged 24/7.
Yeah, and I don't know how the VA is, but they're about 20 years behind on their 15 years behind on their IT stuff as it is. So I don't know how they would do this stuff. And to add to it, the government's got classified networks. So how is their classified networks going to work with this as well?
Right.
There's CIPRNet, JWIX, there's a ton, JADIS, all those things. I don't know if JADIS and JWIX are still around, but those were the TS level internets that I used to work on. And then CIPRNet, of course, those were the ones that the Navy used. And, there was a lot of NIPR, a lot of NIPRNet, but CIPRNet had very, very much little. I mean, we used IRC for, we had an IRC, server for that, but we had only like a tenth of our, information there. So having to log all that stuff on CIPR as well would be yet another problem. And storing that information is also going to cost money, not necessarily just time and effort of making sure that all of this stuff is configured properly. If only we knew somebody who would be able to run a script that could, log this stuff and set it up on Windows boxes. I just don't know anybody. Wow.
I wouldn't want to run the script that sent up all this though.
Hey, Mr. Betcher, government might be coming to you asking for,
right.
Logging, get that fat stack of government cash right there for login
fee there.
There you go. Minimum $500 an hour for an
break
hour.
Everybody's storage.
There you go.
Might be easier to air gap everything at this point.
Yeah. Yeah. If you're in the government, you have my sympathies. I got out of that a long time ago on purpose because I don't know how deep the hole goes, because does this cover government contractors as well as, government contracting and officials? I mean, they just say federal information systems, both for on-prem and connections hosted by third parties such as cloud service providers. I know a lot of government contractors also, interface with government systems. So, is that going to be something that, this is going to trickle down to the, the General Dynamics or the, the SAICs of the world, where they're going to have to also enable this kind of stuff. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with this. So I found this out, the minimum viable security product. I think we'll go to that one. So something came out, I want to say Thursday or Friday. I posted it on into my my company internal chat, and everybody was like, "Oh yeah, we already have something like this." So the way I understand it, Google, Okta, Salesforce, and a couple of other companies, which they said Google, Salesforce, Okta, Slack, and more. So I don't know who's the and more, but it says it was developed and backed by companies across the industry, according to Google's security blog. They say 59% of companies have experienced a data breach caused by a vendor or third parties. Outsourcing to third parties has become popular as it allows organizations to save money and increase operational efficiency. I don't disagree with that. I've been dealing with third-party vendors since, I was working at, in the Navy, and then as a government contractor myself at Ultra Electronics in Austin. So, vendor management is a pain in the ass. Trying to vet vendors is a pain in the ass. Having to deal with things like SIG, which is the standard information questionnaire that you have to do in spreadsheet form, is difficult. So what Google and Okta, Slack, Salesforce, and more did was create what they call as a minimum viable security product. The idea being it's a vendor neutral security baseline designed to eliminate overhead, complexity, and confusion during procurement, RFP, and vendor security assessment process by establishing minimal acceptable security baselines, okay, so that's great. I can definitely see a lot of use for this, coming from, a company that where I had to fill these things out, both as a company that was going to integrate with a third party and then having a third party come in and do stuff for us. And I'm doing that now again, where I am currently. Not knowing the right questions to ask sometimes means that the vendor doesn't volunteer that information. So this is a nice little baseline checklisty looking thing that you can use to ask those questions. Or if you don't want to buy the several $100 financial one, which is called SIG, this is really nice. So thoughts from everybody?
Look, it's not bad.
Not bad. Is it fine? It's fine. It's fine.
They list like the normal, they list the normal things that you complain about when like people don't have, right? Right. They like specifically call it training, which is nice. They separate it out into business controls, like application design. I don't know. I feel like they probably are missing something if I would go through all of it, but it's not.
I didn't see any things for like devices or, the application design controls. They have security libraries in there, but they don't mention things like SBOMs specifically.
Single sign-on is the first one.
Yes, I'm good on that.
Kudos,
yes.
Right?
Right. They've got some great stuff in here. Content security policy, set a minimally permissive content security policy, password policy. If a password auth is used in addition to single sign-on, doing things like do not limit permitted characters that can be used, do not limit the length of passwords to below 64 characters, do not limit the length of the password to anything below 64 characters. What? I think maybe they say don't set a maximum length. Like somebody says, you no more than 8 characters, upper lower number special. I've had a couple sites where it was like, oh, your password is too long, pick something shorter. And I'm like, are you kidding me?
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
No, I like it. I like this project here. It says it's a minimum, it's a minimalistic security checklist. So it doesn't go that far. It is what you need for a baseline. And I think it's great that a company can just download this checklist and make sure that their vendor abides by this.
Right.
I think it's very useful.
Right. I do like their logging list better than the government's.
it's much shorter.
It's four bullet points.
Yeah. Let's see keep logs of users logging in and out, read, write. So CRUD operations on your application, system users and objects, security settings changes, including disabling logging and application owner access to customer data, access transparency.
Done.
Okay. Logs
And it
must
just says like
include-
a valid timestamp.
right. Logs must include user ID, IP address, valid timestamp, type of action performed, and object of this action. Logs must be stored for at least 30 days and should not contain sensitive data or payloads. So this is the minimum viable security product, which is great. I mean, this just makes sure that, the things are, like you said, it's EL0, obviously if you've got things that you want to make sure you want them to log more of, or, you're getting that if you follow this, you're actually following necessary bits. Now, what I would love to see is somebody who's going to work with Google and then they use this on Google and Google's not following this, or that specific group.
Right.
Or, the Oktas or the Slacks that are like, oh, well, we don't do that. Oh, well, you don't even follow the own guidance, that you've created. I'd love to see something like that. But anyway, I'm sure they do. My only problem with this is the same problem I have with PCI. So they get real specific in some places and then they don't in others. It's like, okay, so set a minimally permissive content security policy. What does that mean? Is there a specific setting for that? Or is it, if I don't know what a minimally permissive content security policy is, and I say, oh, I'm sorry, do you have a content security policy? Yes. Is it minimally permissive? Sure. Why not? Yeah. And then I just check it because I'm like, oh, well, they told me it was minimally permissive.
Yeah, but at least you're asking the question and they have to go find the answer, right?
That is a good point. That is a good
A lot of them don't even have that, right?
Right.
And look at encryption. It's a 2.9. Use available means of encryption. What does that mean? Well, available means of encryption could be ROT64 or whatever, and to protect sensitive data in transit between systems and at rest, right? So that gets you thinking, okay, do they have encryption, right? Do they at least have that, in transit and in at rest? So it gets you thinking, okay, let me check if this product has encryption at rest, things like that.
Yeah. And, this would definitely add more questions like 2.8. It's like maintain and periodically test disaster recovery plans. Yeah, we do that. Okay. When was the last time you did that? 4 years ago? Okay. So, you need to, is that good enough for you? Or, is it every 4 or 5 years for testing your disaster recovery plans good enough? Or, are you requiring that every 6 months? There is definitely some thinking in here that you have to go, okay, yes, maintain and periodically test disaster recovery plans. Should we have a minimum viable good for that criteria? Is it like, well, is 4 years good enough? Yeah, sure it is. Or, no, it's not. We require every 6 months, or we require every year, or something like that.
Yeah, we did the test, but it caused everything to crash. So we haven't done it since. Right. And, it's a conversation starter, right?
Yep. Did I see vulnerability management anywhere in here? I see self-assessments.
Vulnerability reports.
Okay. Well, that's just like, I would imagine that's more like bug bounty stuff. So if somebody found something wrong with your website or your application or something, there's a security.txt on your website that somebody could go to, for instance. That's somewhat of the new hotness to be able to, access, or, you set up a security that's monitored.
There's vulnerability prevention and time to fix vulnerabilities under 3.
Yeah. So they talk about, the cross-site scripting, SQL injection, all that stuff.
Right.
So
right. Yeah, that's mostly web app stuff though. But yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. The one thing I would think about is, let's say you've got Cisco coming in. How would Cisco fill up on this? If they have application, they have a web app. So they, they're on your switches have UIs. Sometimes you can run them, physically like that. But so physical access, what is your, your network look like? What I found interesting was this was created because there was seemingly a lack somewhere, or it's nobody is sharing their own internal one because nobody wants to. Because the minute I shared this one with people in my own department, which normally I think we have about 30,000 people in our larger group, they were like, "Oh yeah, we've got this, and the other department's got this," and I was like, "Well, why aren't we sharing these things? If we are sharing those, we're not doing a good enough job of advertising these things." Because as the company I work for should be one of those leaders that should have signed on with this, but I don't know if they're the and more or what, but it just seems like these kinds of things need a unified like steering committee or something like that. Having an SBOM, or you need to fix things within so many days or whatever. There's the 3.4. Okay, time to fix vulnerabilities. So it says, you must fix within 90 days. That probably came from Google's like 0-day initiative group, who tend to like to fix, have things fixed within 90 days or 30 days. So I just think that there should be more of these things, but I think they need to be, not a 927 event like with XKCD. It's like, oh, we have 14 competing standards. Well, let's go ahead and put something up that Google, Okta, Salesforce, and more have decided to, create. Now we have 15 competing, so I think it's great if you are vetting vendors. You could always use this as a nice template to start, and don't ask people to go visit the Amazon data centers. Okay. I've had that more than once doing a vendor vetting. Hey, we'd like to use your company. Okay, great. We use Amazon. We're all in the Amazons, and they're like, well, we need to do a physical security assessment. We need to see your cage in the data center. And I'm like, yeah, no, that ain't going to happen.
That's not how it works.
Yeah. They're like, well, why not? And I was like, because even I don't have access to Amazon employees don't have access to their own data centers. It's
right.
Like dogs and black helicopters and, orbital bombardment and shit. If you even try to get near it, that kind of stuff. So, don't ask to go visit, Google's data center or Amazon's data center or an Azure data center. It's just not going to happen, folks. Get real. So, let me see. I think that was it. There's standard fusion. Okay. Yeah. I don't think I have anything else. I just think that we need to do better at sharing these things and creating kind of a unified front for this. I would have loved to have seen things like, do you know where your libraries are coming from? Do you know what chipsets your device is using? If it's a device kind of pen test, do you have, do you have assurances from them that they will issue updates themselves? So, you see a lot of hardware devices that, don't ever get updated again, or, are using outdated TCP stacks, as we've talked with the Trek, the folks who found the Ripple 20 stuff. Those weren't updated for 30 years and people are still using those libraries. So, you need to start asking that question to your device people as well. If you've got a hardware appliance, God forbid, that they're still using and giving you, what are the updates looking like there? Are they giving you firmware updates for your Wi-Fi chips or your network chips or what have you? So cool. Any other thoughts there on that before we bid adieu?
Not on that.
No.
Okay. All right. Ms. Berlin, I saw you were on another podcast recently. I happened to peruse my LinkedIn and you were on a podcast. What was that all about?
I've been on a few of them lately.
I'm not jealous. No. I appreciate you being on other podcasts. We're not exclusive. You can go and see other podcasts if you want, I guess.
I had a very busy week after vacation this month. I had a week of vacation, and then I had like 7 podcasts in 1 week.
Jesus, really? Is it are you in an official capacity as a Bloomy employee, or is it just
half and half? It was half,
okay.
Half Bloomera, half mental health hacker stuff. So
oh, right. Okay. Oh yes, Mental Health Awareness Month just ended.
It made it October is very busy for me for that stuff. And, my friend who I went and saw down in San Diego, his name is Derek. He
full disclosure, I went and saw him because he's got ALS, so he's living on borrowed time, and he was getting his doctors in psychology at San Diego, and him and his wife are lovely people, and it's one of those things like you just wish that bad things, ALS happened to somebody bad instead of somebody good, because he was definitely a good person, or is a good person. He's not gone yet, but he's living on 3 to 5 years, and he was very interested in finding out about Hackers Health, and knowing that it was Suicide Prevention Month and Mental Health Awareness Month and Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and so I told him a little bit about what you're doing, raising mental health awareness for security folk, and pretty much security, but there's a lot of industries with mental health issues as well, not to mention burnout and PTSD. But he had a lot of respect for what you were doing, and was interested in hearing and knowing that there's organizations like yours out there doing that. So
awesome.
Yeah. So are you going to be on any podcasts coming up? Or are you trying to stop doing work? Too many things in November, December.
So I just spoke with VMware twice on one LinkedIn thing and one Twitter space recently about burnout. And I'm like, well, speaking of that, I am not doing anything extra in November, December. Like I'm taking time, like, because Jeremy and I were traveling and training and doing training through O'Reilly and Wild West Hacking Fest and all of this kind of stuff. And I was just so burnt out.
It's too much.
Yeah. Like, I mean, I love the fact that people want to do the training that we're offering, but it's like having 3 full-time jobs.
Well, you need to hire another trainer or something, maybe.
Yeah, you get a chief of staff.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. You
Take
got a
care of your
CFO
schedule
already.
for you.
Yeah.
I need a intern or something just to
executive assistant. Yeah.
help me not triple book things.
It's okay. There's no guilt here. If I can't speak on something for 30 minutes with somebody who I'm asking active questions to, then I should just hang up my job.
I suppose.
But yeah, no, I'm glad you're back home. You aren't back home, actually. You're somewhere else.
I'm in Cleveland-ish.
Oh, okay. All right. All right. The marathon. That's right. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, I think we're done this week. Miss Berlin, tell people about Mental Health Hackers, where they can find it, InfoSec Roleplay, all that. Where can they find that stuff and information about that?
Sure. So with Mental Health Hackers, we're doing a Hackers Who Paint thing, and that's still open.
Yeah.
And that's November 5th.
Okay, so that's
next Friday.
Next
Friday.
Yep. Yeah.
Hopefully this is out by then. I don't know.
5 November 2021. Yes, this will be out. Hopefully Halloween night. So
okay, cool. Yeah. So you still have time to sign up. You might not have time to get a kit shipped to you. So you might have to get your own paint stuff. But we're going to be, I don't remember what we're painting, but we tweeted it all out and all the information's out there and you can sign up if you want. You don't have to be good at painting and you don't have to have your camera on. You can just kind of follow along if you don't want to have any pressure.
That's cool.
The last time was super cool because we actually had 2 people that have never actually really painted anything before.
Oh yeah.
And I think they're coming back again. So that's
cool.
Super fun. And then as long as Wild West Hacking Fest is in person, we'll be there. Their Way West and the regular one, whenever the next time those are. And then as far as other conferences, I have no idea because who knows what's going to be in person anymore.
That's cool. Okay.
So we're going to try and find, we have a couple of different ideas because we have money in the bank to spend. So we have a couple of different ideas of what to do with that. So I guess watch out for those things.
Okay.
And then, Jeremy and I are doing training through Wild West Hacking Fest and Anti-Siphon for the play, like not only tabletop stuff, but also playbook creation. We just did one in Indiana. And then we have some other private companies that we're going to go do next year.
Very cool. Okay. And if they wanted to find you on Twitter, how would they find you?
At InfoSister on Twitter, INFOSYSTIR, or at Hackers Health.
Okay. Or InfoSec Roleplay, I believe, is the other one, right?
Yes, but we don't really actively use that one. So
Oh,
Just-
okay.
yeah,
All right.
it's out
So-
there,
so-
but
Okay. All right. Hey, so for the next painting session, make sure that the room is a bit warmer, because when I was in there and we were doing nudes and stuff, it was a little cold. So
I'm sorry.
that's my
That's
only
why you have
excuse.
the robe when you're up
It wa-
there.
I know, but it was very cold. That's my story. And I'm sticking to it. Yeah, but
It's all
yeah,
right. I don't
just-
judge. It's all art, Brian.
I felt some Snickers. I did. I felt snickering happening.
It wasn't
It
you.
was-
We were laughing with you.
It was like a frightened turtle. That's all I'm saying. All right, Mr. Betcher, how would people find out about what you're doing with LogMD, and what is LogMD?
Yeah, LogMD is the log and malicious discovery tool. So it helps you configure your system to generate the correct logs, the right logs, the detailed logs that you need, and not too much, right? It
Right.
gets the good stuff. And I'm thinking of a commercial, everything you love and nothing you don't, or something like that.
Oh,
But yeah, so check it out, log-md.com.
very cool. And for all you government folks who have to deal with this OMB exec thing, they have a special licensing for the government. It's only $3 million per license. So you're getting a
Oh.
steal, really. That's really a steal, to be honest. 'Cause
Yeah.
you're never gonna. That's
If you need to come under budget, just look our way.
That's right. 3 million per license. I mean, you can't beat that, really. That's that pays for itself immediately. So cool. All right. So podcast, you can follow us at BreakSec. You can follow me at Brian Break on Twitter. Our nonprofit, the InfoSec Education Foundation, we just re-upped our nonprofit status to the state of Washington. Had to pay $10 whole for that. And we're looking for, scholarship opportunities, I think. I would like to start expanding what we're doing with that to help folks. We're not going to pay for SANS training, obviously, because, unless you're a government entity, nobody's going to be paying, straight up for that. But, there's a ton of stuff that I found out there. Like Mr. Venomous and I were looking at some fairly decent training that didn't cost a ton of money from like Black Hills and what have you. We're looking at like a potentially a scholarship kind of thing there where, we can offset some of the cost of that if it's online or if it's something you would need to help upskill or reskill in this case, if you're looking to move industries. We're trying to look at opportunities to do that because we are an educational foundation. We would like to, do that. So, please, if you have thoughts about that, or if you are a training organization that would love to partner with us, we would be interested in doing that. And we would definitely, give you a little time on the show to talk about your offerings as well. So let me see. InfoSec Camp Out. We're going to be getting the officers and the band back together like we normally do to do things like call for papers and call for workshop, which is currently set August 26th through 28th, 2022. We're going to be outside camping. We already have the venue booked and the barn booked. So we're just looking to fill space. So we'll need a couple of workshops and some papers. So if you want to come up to Seattle or you're in the Pacific Northwest already, we'll be posting some stuff in the next couple months for that. So we just want to make sure we've got enough time to fill the camping spots. So if you will, so I think, thank you to our Patreon donors. All of you are very instrumental in making sure the podcast keeps going and doing what it's doing and paying for, we pay for our Zoom every month, our hosting from Libsyn. Making sure that the podcast community stays upright and moving towards, getting more people. And so thank you all in the Patreon for your support for that. And I think that is everything. So hope Mr. Betcher, you have a good week. Try to stay dry. Miss Berlin, you just got through the worst of a bunch of rain, and so did we, but hope everybody stays safe. And we'll talk to you all in next week, I guess. So looking forward to that.
All right.
Right on. All right. Well, that was it for Breaking Down Security this week. Have a great week. Be kind to one another. Stay safe. Get your boosters, please. I'm getting mine because apparently I'm old enough now to get them. Wash your hands, you nasties, and take care of yourselves because you're the only you have. And we'll talk to you again soon.